Man, I'm good. How you doing, sister?
Good, good. Now, y'all, I don't think, let's see, season 3, I don't think I interviewed anybody that I like, no, for real, like for years. And I haven't this season either yet. So this is going to be interesting. Because I think y'all gonna get an inside look at our conversations and how this person try to keep me together all the time. He don't run me, but he think he run me. And so this is going to be an interesting conversation. We're talking about relationships. And one of the reasons why I really was excited to have Arvin on is because, and I know he a pastor, but he my brother, so I call him Arvin. So don't at me, saints. Okay. But one of the reasons why I was so excited to have him on is because in the past, over the last 10 years, I'd say, anytime I've had an issue with relationships, this is who I call. Okay. Mostly because he gets on my nerves, but he always provides great advice. I have to give it to him. He always gives me great advice. He doesn't tell me what I want to hear. He tells me what I need to hear, and it's always unbiased. And we've had some knockout dragouts, but at the end of the day, he was right. And so I think that our listeners would it would benefit them to hear some of the things that I've had to put up with for the last few years. And before we jump into all of that, let the people know who you are and what it is that you do about your church and all that good stuff.
I am Arvin Medlock Jr. I'm from Odessa, Texas, born and raised. I am now currently pastoring in Crockett, Texas, the Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. I do not live there, but I live in North Houston. And so I serve between Houston area and the Crockett area. I'm a graduate of Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia, both with a bachelor's in theological studies and theological and biblical studies. And then I have a master's in special education. Married to Briar Lightner from North Dallas. We had our first child last year, Micah. And just God's been good to us. And that's that's me.
Yeah, it's been beautiful to watch the family grow. It's been beautiful to watch you kind of go from I don't know what you were doing when we actually became friends. I don't know if you were pastoring just yet, but you were definitely serving in ministry. So it's been an amazing thing to watch God, do some amazing things. And like you said, you have a beautiful family, beautiful ministry, and I'm proud of you. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I'm proud of you.
You helped me too. You said some things to me that I needed to hear that I didn't want to hear. So that's what sister brothers to do. Especially when we real with each other. We don't have to be. I don't have to be fake with you. You don't have to be fake with me. We can just talk. And I called you sometimes, and I was just hot as fish greasy. You was like, you knew that. You just ain't been paying attention. So it's just the realness of our relationship.
Yeah, it pays to have friends like that. So let's jump into it. So I want to give this disclaimer. I know you a pastor and whatnot, and I know that you're going to provide biblical principles, but we need some life application, some practical stuff too, Pastor, tonight. And I know that you deliver that. And again, that's why I have you on, because you give us both. So let's jump into it. I know that you've done a lot of counseling, a lot of marital couples counseling. What would you say is the biggest issue, problem, or difference of opinion that you've seen come to your office and say, like, this is our problem? What is the biggest thing? Is there one or two things that has been consistent that you've seen?
And it's a general, what I'm going to say something, I'm going to say it's a general answer that can span off for many other different issues. So and I don't want to give a generic answer, but it really is just a generic answer. And there's the difference between real and unreal. It's always somebody's going to come to the table with some unrealistic expectations, and it's always going to be somebody who comes with realistic expectations. So that is the difference. Whatever issue, whether it's money, whether it's infidelity, whether it's trust issues, whether it's communication issues, whether it's verbal abuse. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with physical abuse, but regardless of what the situation is, it's unrealistic expectations versus realistic expectations.
I didn't think you were gonna say that. Like, I just knew, I thought so many other things, but I didn't think that's what you were gonna say. But that is like, that is very true. I think a lot of us deal with unrealistic expectations, and that's why we either fail in relationships or we just push away good people because they don't match everything on our list. So let's talk about that. What do you think these expectations are rooted in? Like, for me, I know that I've had expectations based on, I would say, what I hadn't received in the past, or childhood hurt, or like wanting someone to do something in my relationship that I feel like I've never gotten my entire life, which isn't really fair to the people who are just coming into your life. They just want to love you, and you start putting all of these things that your mama didn't do, that your daddy didn't do, on them. So for me, I can be honest and say that that's been a huge thing. But what do you think? What are some of the things that are, those things are rooted in? What are those expectations rooted in usually?
So I try to be just as, honest and open as I can. So one thing that we have to do, and I want to set the foundation of our conversation tonight as a relationship, that we have to get rid of this theory of one size fits all.
Correct.
Relationships, there's never two of the kind.
Right.
And so when you talk about realistic expectations or unrealistic expectations, of where does it come from? It comes from many different aspects. For instance, you might have someone who was born in a woman who was born into a rich family, was born into a fortune family. So she comes into a relationship with a man, expecting that man to do maybe like her father and mother did. You have people who come in relationships that had experienced bad relationships, or they come in a relationship with baggage.
Yeah.
So they, during their single period or during their transitional period from being divorced to living single to going to into a relationship to being remarried, they have established all these set of rules and boundaries and safeguards that are just unrealistic. So you have just many different aspects of that.
So I guess the better question is, how do we keep an eye on that? Like those that are dating or even in married relationships, and they're finding themselves, though it's a general thing and it could be a plethora of reasons or expectations or whatever, what can we do to better safeguard that so that we aren't putting that on our partners, our counterparts?
So for instance, the last few times I've did premarital counseling, there was baggage brought in from previous relationships. So how do you know that you coming in a real relationship with unrealistic expectations is when you are doing things to keep from this person that you're going into a relationship from doing the things that the other person did. So if you come into a relationship, not just comparison,
okay,
but if you come in a relationship, well, I'm gonna do this, that, and the other to make sure that he's not allowed to do what such and such doing.
Gotcha.
Then that's how you know you coming into a relationship with realistic expectations. Because if you cannot treat this man or this woman with and give this person a fresh start, you come in with safeguards, you come in with boundaries, you come with putting expectations of measure or setting measurements or whatever you want to say or call it. You already come into a relationship with unrealistic expectations, because first of all, that person may not be that person.
Yeah.
Number two, if he is or she is, they still gonna do, no matter what you put in place, they still gonna do what they want to do.
Very true. Yeah, and you're kind of creating these expectations, and you're creating this on the basis of another person. So like you said, it's not going to work. It's a very unrealistic because it doesn't even apply to the person that you're with now. And I think that I've been guilty of that too. And like you said, no, I'm gonna do things this way, and he's not gonna do this, and not even giving them, like you said, a fair shot and a fair chance. So that's good. That's good. Speak to the benefit of counseling, premarital therapy. Like, what is your stance on that? Because a lot of people in ministry, they do, I would say they push premarital counseling, but as it relates to therapy and stuff like that, you don't always see that as much. I haven't. Let me say that. I haven't. What do you feel about that? Because I think that in our culture, the where we are as it pertains to relationships and stuff is kind of sad. And I think that there's something missing. And I think that my hope is to see us be more open to therapy and counseling, not just in our relationships, but especially our relationships. That's my stance on it. Like having God at the core, yes, but I think that having someone else come in to kind of help with those safeguards and help as you kind of go along in marriage relationships helps. What do you feel about it? I said a whole lot there, but
so here's my deal. And I'm gonna tell you what I do. I have a pre marital counseling curriculum that is both spiritual and practical. It's an old saying, old wise saying that it's heavenly good, but not too earth. It's not so heavenly good that there's no earthly good. It's a balance. And I think that's important, especially me being a spiritual leader, that if I'm going to pre-mount, I can't just always harp on the spiritual aspect. I have to have some kind of psychological, some kind of psychology, whatever, all those fancy words. I put it on paper. I don't really speak it that way. but anyways, I think it's important, first of all, you find someone, if you're going to get a pastor, who can be balanced.
That's good.
Number two, I've never been, the reason why, and now I'm going to switch, the reason why premarital counseling is important. I've never been in a counseling session or held a counseling session where something wasn't brought out that was affecting one or both people. So you get caught in love, you start putting stuff under the rug, you start ignoring stuff, and you like, okay, you see the warning signs, you see this is gonna be an issue. And one old wise man told me before I was getting married to Brian, he said, Arvin, he said, the things that you hate about her most are gonna get 10 times worse when you get married. So if there are things that you can't deal with now, that you're tolerating, you're married. If you don't get if you don't get that understanding, if you don't get that foundation,
now
you're going to be in a miserable marriage as soon as the honeymoon is over.
Wow.
So I've never been in a counseling situation where something was brought out that if brought into the marriage and not given tools to deal with it or get a compromise or get an understanding could cost the marriage. It could be detrimental to the marriage in the future.
That's good. And it also provides a safe space because I don't like conflict. And so a lot of times I've held things in, but like when you are in a space like that, I would think that it'd be easier to feel like you have like a mediator to say everything that you need to say. So I think I never thought of it that way too, is that you're able to, like you said, bring up some things that you wouldn't normally if you didn't come to counseling, and those things could be a detriment to your marriage. I like that.
Get somebody unbiased. Get somebody that's also unbiased.
All right.
Now, you know me. When you get to that point, you can come to me. Both of you, because I'm gonna shoot you straight.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be aware, just because he's your pastor or this is my friend, don't mean that's healthy for your marriage if he can't be unbiased. If he can't tell you what's real, or if he always or she always siding on your side, nah, because you ain't always right.
Okay.
Get somebody that's unbiased that that's gonna tell you the baby's ugly if the baby is ugly.
Okay. So we talked a little about marriage, marriage, and touched on that, but I want to talk about dating. Hmm. Huh. What would you say? Let's start with, because I have men and women listeners. Let's start with the men. What are some tips, some do's, some don'ts in dating? Whether it's people around you that have come to you or you just have seen yourself. Again, this is general, just some things that we should and should not do when it comes to dating. Because you kind of given me a list a few times of some things that I need to work on and not do and do better in. What are some of those things? Let's start with the men that, because men and women are always pointing the finger, but both sides can do better. So what are some of those things, starting with men, that we could do better in, or they could do better in dating?
Oh, there's, you got to get more specific, because,
I mean, listen, so I can't say what I want to say, but
that's the Lord you.
Yeah. But I don't know if you have guys that are single that are your friends, or even things that I told you about people that I've dated. Okay, let me get more specific. You're right. So I've seen a lot of emotional unavailability when it comes to men. I have been with a lot of men, not a lot of men, Lord Jesus, that don't sound right, but I have been with men that have been divorced and hurt in those marriages. And so now they're divorced and they're out trying to date again, and they're not available. They're not there, but they're trying to date. They call themselves trying to date and bring you into this, what it really becomes a process of their healing still. You don't know that, but that's what it is. You have something to say?
Yeah. So there's a twofold, we on the ever evolving podcast.
Yeah, keep it.
So I can be me. There's twofold to that. There's some guys who are recently divorced. They date women just so that their needs can be fulfilled, because at the end of the day, he's still a man.
Preach.
And so if you're dating a man, and I'm gonna go back to the men perspective, but if you're dating a man and he's dating you, but he's emotionally absent, that means that he ain't trying to be in a relationship. At the end of the day, he's still a man. He still has needs. And right now, you're dating him, so you're fulfilling their needs, but he has no intentions for a serious relationship.
Say it again. He has no what?
Intentions for a serious relationship.
So and I would go as far as to say that y'all not even dating. That's how I'll be feeling, like y'all not even really dating. You just kind of chilling. You just, like you said, chilling.
You going
out fulfilling the needs.
You going out to eat, going to the movies. He fluing you out. What he doing?
It's companionship. It ain't
no even companionship. It is what it is. He's paying. It's the glorified way of paying to get what he wants.
My God.
It's justification in prostitution.
Oh my God.
That's what it is. Because I know I gotta do these things to entertain you in order for me to get what I'm gonna get at the end of the night, or get what I'm gonna get. So instead of me getting in the newspaper or getting online or driving around, I'm just gonna go to the club. I'm gonna go to the bar, restaurants, or where it's popping, where hang out, find me a girl, we're gonna chill. And yeah, I got a little extra funds. I'm gonna wine and dine at the end of the night. I'm gonna get what I need. But I'm never, because
no intentions.
No, men are physical, women are emotional. So you're fulfilling his needs, but he's not fulfilling yours. So you need to make up in your mind whether or not you are willing to be that person, and stop kidding yourself that you're gonna change, that he can change you.
And let's say this, like the things to look for, because sometimes they will make it appear like there's something to look forward to, and they're just taking their time, and be patient with them. But if you got to keep asking, I always say, if you got to ask what y'all doing, you ain't doing nothing. If you got to ask, what are we, and what we doing and what you think. If you gotta ask, because the real one gonna let you know. If you have to ask, sis, you're not doing nothing.
A man is gonna tell you by his actions who you are.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you cry, he cry.
Consistently.
If you hurt, he hurt. He don't do things out of obligation. He does things because he desires to do those things.
Yeah.
If he knows if I don't do this, such and such gonna be mad at me, or I ain't, or she ain't gonna fool with me, or this is what she require. No, when he does stuff simply because he wants to, he finds joy in that, then he's into you. Let me say this about the men. We're living in a day and age, and we being real. We live in a day and age where you don't have to play these games with these women. I hate to say it, but just tell them.
Tricks are for kids.
Because you fool around, you're gonna find somebody that they looking just for what you're looking for.
But that's true. And I've always said that. I think not just like hooking up, but just be honest. Because give me a choice. Give me the choice. Like, respect me enough to give me the choice to decide if that's something I want to deal with or not. You may be surprised. No matter, and I'm saying again, in general, it could be anything. You may be surprised. I may be like, okay, that's cool. All right, that's cool. Or whatever. Because I always say, whatever you're doing. Oh, I shouldn't say that on here. Okay, let's move on.
Let God use it.
Ooh, I almost slipped. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not that girl. If you doing it, I listen, because you single until you married. Okay, moving on. Communication. Lack of communication. You said that women are emotional, men are physical. But at a certain age, I want to be honest, me and my friends, even those that are married, we have this conversation so much. That's a problem for a lot of women that are trying to love this man and be there for him, but he has an inability to be vulnerable. And it poses a problem. And not to say that he has to be like, you know what I'm saying, always crying and, super sensitive. And I don't think that's it. But just being able to, in some way, let his guard down, especially when it comes to how he's feeling. If he's going through depression, or not, it may not be those words or whatever. If he's going through something, some men lash out or they go within instead of like allowing their woman to be there for them. And that's a huge thing that I've dealt with, feeling like the punching bag, like, and trying to just be there, but you become like the punching bag because he doesn't want to talk about it until he's ready. So you end up, kind of going through this whirlwind of emotions, waiting on him to get over whatever he's going through. And then when he's over it, you got to just keep moving on. But it does, what I'm saying? There's hurt that happens during that time. Like, I hope I'm making sense. So the lack of vulnerability and lack of emotion in a lot of my friendships and their relationships, and even with me, has been a problem. How do we navigate through that? Like, is it a man needs to do better? Is it the woman needs to back off? Like, what is that? How do we get better at that and fixing that?
So that's twofold. It's twofold. It's both men and women. And I'm Lord have mercy. It's twofold. So, for instance, on one aspect, let's deal with somebody who coming from a bad relationship. Or that person is offended. That's it. That's the word. Luke chapter 7 or Luke chapter 17, Jesus says to the disciples, they're gonna be offended. And then a few verses later, he says, the disciples say, Lord, increase my faith. Offense is the word scandalon. It's the word we get the root word scandal. And oftentimes it's scandals that are or things that scandalous things that cause us to be offense. And so what happens after offense, we put up a wall. Now, our system, our spiritual man system is designed for love to come in and the love to flow out, to love to come in and the love to flow up. It's called the cross relationship. That as my relationship, my vertical relationship is good, my horizontal relationship is good. So we are spiritual are designed for a rotation of love. So when somebody get offended, they instantly put up a wall. Is where we develop strongholds. And whenever you have an emptiness, a void, that void has to be filled. So what does it fill with? It's filled with hate. What comes with hate? Anger, frustration, whether it's verbal anger, physical anger. So I tell people all the time, when you find someone who is offended, then what you have to learn to do is you have to love that offense out of them. Sometimes being quiet and just showing compassion, maybe cooking his favorite meal. Don't know. If you're married, maybe doing what you need to do. Maybe he don't want to talk about it, but maybe as you love him or love her and you minister to them, because your first ministry is at home. Now, I know we ain't talking about marriage, but if you're dating, maybe just going to sit in the house with him. Maybe just being there, being quiet. Oftentimes we force people to grieve or to deal with issues the way, why you not talking to me? Why you not telling me? What's wrong? Maybe just being there. Maybe the ministry of presence is powerful.
Wow. Ministry of presence.
And all right, well, they'll open up and communicate with you more.
I agree. Ladies, did you hear that? I feel a little convicted because we're nurturers and we're fixers, and we want to fix it, and we want to love, and we just want it to be okay, and we want to soothe it, but sometimes just the ministry of presence.
But I want to say this too, because I don't want to I've seen this in my marriage counseling sessions. You'll be surprised how many men miss that.
Yeah.
Wife had a bad day at work. She won't talk to me. Just be there. Go get her some bath water.
Yeah.
And
don't get mad at her because she didn't, and shut down and make it worse because she doesn't want to talk about it. Because I always said, like, double standards make me sick, because a lot of times that is how men react, not all. But then when a woman does it, it's a problem. And I don't think that's fair, because I've been guilty of that. I don't like conflict. I don't like talking about certain things. And so I will shut down sometimes about certain things. And then, it may turn into an argument. But like you said, men need to understand that too. Like, sometimes we don't want to talk about it either. So again, I'm stealing that, the ministry of presence. That's all right. All right. That's why we got you here. Moving over to the women, because I knew we was gonna run out of time. I should have known better that we was gonna run out of time. Women and respect. So talk about that, like about the ways that women can, from a male's perspective, because you ain't a woman, but from a male's perspective, how can women keep their delivery respectful, keeping their grievances in relationships respectful, handling offense respectfully without blasting the man. You see where I'm going?
Gotcha. So let me share this with you. I'm guilty of this personally. You got to model. You got to model how you want to be treated. So, when I get upset, there's been times where I have blown up, but then I feel some type of way when my wife gets mad and she blow up. So we got to be, as men, it starts with us. Everything starts with us as men. We can't be hypocritical. We can't, just because we don't cuss, kick, and scream like them don't mean that we are not disrespectful. We're not, condescending, per se. So it starts with us. Number two, let me say this. It's a morality thing. And I hate to say this, it's a morality of our society. We live in a society where most kids grew up. Let me stop that. We grew up in a society where most African American color culture of African descent did not grow up with a man in a home. So women per se, they didn't grow up knowing how to respect a man, because for multiple reasons. I don't want to go in that. We got multiple reasons, but they didn't grow up watching in a traditional home, watching their mom respect a man, watching a man respect a woman. Then they have all those anger issues, those daddy issues, because daddy wasn't there. So they don't know how to love a man because they didn't see it. Then they mad at their daddy. So you have all those issues playing, because back the way some women talk to men these days, that I don't care what that man did back 30, 40 years ago. Mama wasn't going
Never.
never. And so you have to be careful with that. And I'm here's I thought about this today. The man is the foundation, no piece in the relationship, but the woman is the favor in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says,
Mm-hmm.
he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And we stop right there.
Okay.
But you got to add the rest of that and obtain a favor. So in order for, here's the deal with what a lot of women don't understand. Go back to Genesis. Both the man and the woman was incomplete. God took rib out of Adam and created Eve. Eve was just the rib. Adam had a missing piece. The foundation, the favor. So you got to understand he's your foundation, but he also has to understand that she is your favor. And that neither one of you will never, I don't care how successful you are. When people realize this, when couples realize this, the sky is the limit. No matter how successful I'm gonna be as a single person, I'll never reach my full potential until I find my foundation.
Right.
Or I find my favor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, bless the name of the Lord. That's good. Foundation, favor. That's good. So I hope that helps. I hope that we understand, like you said, we need one another. And like you said, you may be good individually, but together we can be amazing. And I think that we have to understand that. Okay, I gotta wrap it up. I got 2 more questions, but I gotta wrap it up because we are running out of time. It's gonna be a lot of
answer the questions.
It's gonna be a lot of editing in this too, because I think I rambled a lot. But knowing the one, this is a question I see a lot in relationship groups, over social media, Clubhouse. I've seen this. Knowing the one, is there and I'm asking you as a pastor, because in church we have been taught a lot of things, and the older we get and we start to know God for ourselves and reading the word for ourselves, we learn a lot of things on our own. But a lot of us are still under certain ideals that may not be necessarily biblical or even accurate. And I said it, and I will not take it back. One of the things that I was taught growing up is like dating wasn't really a thing. Like, you don't date, you just gotta send them. And y'all will get together and you'll know. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy because it kind of is, but that's what I was taught. So you have a lot of people that are going around looking for something to look a certain way, feel a certain way, and be a certain way. And it goes back to being unrealistic. So talk about that in people that are out here dating and knowing what the one looks like, feels like. How should that process go, especially for people who are believers? So that's why I'm asking this, because so many people are still being taught these things.
Yes. So the Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. He findeth. Now, how he finds or how she is found, that's up to God's doing. I don't know how to really put application to that, but I can tell you how I know my experience of knowing who the one is. The one, this is how you know when you found the one, is that person makes you better and inspires you. Things that I've done in my life. I mean, the day I met my wife and the day she left and went back home for the summer break, we were both in college. From the day she returned back to campus, we've been together every day there since. And from that day forth, in every aspect of my life, she made me better. And I've accomplished things.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say that she was a reason, or I mean, it just happened. But the things that I have accomplished in my life, um, me being better, she made me better, and I made her better. I supported her. So that's how you know when you have somebody, when they inspire you to be great,
Yeah.
when they're pushing you into greatness.
Yeah.
That is how you know. You don't, somebody, if they're trying to hold you down and keep you back, that ain't the person for you.
Thank you, Arvin,
You welcome.
for coming on and helping the people, helping me too. I think I do a lot better though. I
Yeah.
think I've grown a
I ain't
lot.
called me in a while. I wonder if I was too hard on you.
Nah, I just been, making better choices, making better decisions, I've grown up a little bit, But no, thank you so much for this. I've taken a lot from this, and I believe our listeners have as well. Let the people know how they can stay in contact with you if they're in the Crockett, Houston area and want to visit your ministry. Give them all of that information and good stuff.
First of all, Facebook, Arvin D. Medlock Jr., Instagram, Medlock, Ed Medlock Jr., Twitter, Ed Medlock Jr., Twitter, Instagram, Ed Medlock Jr., Facebook, Arvin D. Medlock Jr., Friendship Baptist Church, Crockett, Texas, here on Facebook. That is that's where we have church. We have church on right now from 11 to 12 because of the pandemic. Regular hours is 10:30 to 12. We don't put an hour on God, but I don't believe holding the people hostages.
Okay.
So yeah, those are the places to find me. All right.
Thank you. Y'all heard it here. I hope something was said that will help you along your relationship journey, whether it be marriage, engagement, dating, all that good stuff. Because there's been some good stuff that's been said. So I hope we helped you tonight. Until next time, you are listening to and watching the Ever Evolving Podcast.